player. Then we chase player. We need to the main sort of focus of this, it's going to be taking information from the player character. So I'm going to right click down here and type get player character, and then from our player character I want to get actor location. Okay, we've got our get actor location first and foremost, and we're going to get random point inevitable radius. Okay, so this all sounds familiar because essentially this is the same as what it works with the same core functionality as what we had before. Okay, this also means, if you remember before, that we need a variable to work with. So we're going to open up a variable. We're just going to call it vector because this is just an empty vector at this moment in time. And then with that selected, we're going to change this to Blackboard key selector. Okay, and then we'll drag this in, and then we are going to get our vector. Cool. Okay, from this we are going to set Blackboard value as vector. Okay, and again, if you're confused about what's going on here, okay, what we are doing, I don't know, hit tick success this time. What we are doing is we are enabling a empty vector here to be edited, if that makes sense. So what's happening is that this vector will take a value given to it from the Blackboard. Okay, and that is essentially what this here is doing. So when we start the event, we're going to get the player character, get its location, and then we're going to get a random point within an inevitable radius. And I want to set this to be relatively small and set this to about 100. Okay, so it encompasses like a 100 degree radius around the player. It's going to spit out a random location within that 100 degree radius, and that value is going to be stored in a vector, okay, which can be accessed from our Blackboard. And then we finish the execution. I'm going to hit compile and save, and then we're going to close this down, and we're going to close this down as well. So again, we're going to come over to here, and we're going to want to rename this because we don't want this named. Save, and then we're going to close this down, and we're going to close this down as well. So again, we're going to come over to here, and we're going to call find player location, and then from here, I just realised I made a slight mistake. So double click this. One thing I forgot, guys, is with our vector, we are going to want to make this instance editable, which basically just means that it can be edited through other means. In this case, the Blackboard. In this case, it also makes it public as well. So just hit compile. Sorry, I just forgot to do that. Come back to here, and then where it's got default vector, set actor, we want to make sure it's set to location. Now we set all this up in the last video, so we're just using the same vector to store that location. We only need we only need that one vector, but whether it's used to store the random location or whether it's used to find the player location will all depend on whether we actually whether we can see the player or whether the AI can't see the player. Okay, and more on this in a minute. So once we find the player location, we just want to go move to select this, and then move to set location. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Okay, so there's not much more to these sequences as it currently is. However, what we are going to need to do is, as I said earlier, is the AI needs to know which of these to run, okay, based on whether it can see the player or not. So we're going to need to go back to our blackboard, and then under here we're going to click new key. I'll set this up as a boolean, and I'm just going to call this player spotted. Leave it blank, hit save. Okay, and then oh, do I want to pass it down? Go back. Okay, so essentially we want our selector to run only this sequence if our boolean spotted player or player spotted is true. Okay, so we want to be able to control this a little bit. Now the way we do this is if we right click this little node up here where it highlights yellow, we want to add what's known as a decorator. Why it's called a decorator, I have no idea, because it is in effect a condition. Strange, unreal naming conventions, I suppose. But add a decorator, and we want to access a Blackboard component, so we click back Blackboard. Okay, now we can click this, it will show up as blue, but if we click this, we can then edit the information within here. So what we need to look for is what is being held within the Blackboard. Now we want to access the player spotted, and we want to say key query is not set. So if player spotted is not set, in this case, if this is not true, then we're going to run this sequence. Okay, and then I'm just going to call this cannot see player. Okay, so it just helps us to identify how this in effect is running. Okay, so I'm going to up a little bit, make it a little bit more tidier. So we have a condition here, decorator condition, whatever you want to call it, which says if we cannot see the player, so if player spotted is not set, so if it's set to 0, if it's not true, then we are going to continue to run this function here. However, if we can see the player, then we want to chase them. So same again, we right click this, we then say add decorator Blackboard, and then we click this. So we are looking for player spotted. If it is set, then we say can see player, then we chase player. Okay, nice and simple. Now the next thing we need to work out is how we can turn this on and off. Okay, so how the AI knows whether it can see the player or whether it can't see the player. So we've got the foundation set up now, that when this fires, we know that these actions are now going to run based on what we've got here and what we programmed in previously. So I'm just going to hit save and hit close. So we're going to need to next find out essentially how our NPC, how it can see, and how it can essentially view the player. So what we're going to need to do initially is we're going to need to go back to our third person character. We're going to click this, and we are going to add a component, and we're going to call this AI perception stimuli source. Now from our stimuli source, we essentially need to set this up so that it can auto register as a source, and that we want to set it so that it can be spotted through sight. So if we under AI perception here, so with our AI perception stimuli source selected, we're going to tick this and then add a new element, and then under here where it's got none, we want to change this to AI sense site. Okay, and so we have basically added our character into the bracket of this is a thing that you can see. Okay, that's all that this is essentially set up to say. So your player character, is something that can be seen by an AI source. Okay, you can hit compile and save. Next, we then want to head back to our NPC AI. And in here, we are going to want to add in AI perception. Okay, and again, we can leave this as it currently is. Now, AI perception, what this basically means is we can edit essentially what we can interact with. So if we just click plus on here, then scroll down, we want to select the site config, and then if we open this up further, we got all of these sensors here. So we can adjust site radius, loose site radius, etc. What we want to do is we want to go to this little arrow here, where it says detection by affiliation, and we want to just for this purpose, we just want to tick all of these so that it can be detected by friendlies, neutrals, and enemies. Okay, so this is how you would determine how the AI essentially behaves, whether it reacts to enemies, whether it reacts to neutrals, and whether it reacts to friendlies. So with this selected, what we're going to need to do is actually enable it to be able to set our boolean true or false. So we're going to right click AI perception, and we're going to say add event, and we're going to select add on target perception updated, okay, which will give us this event here. Now what we're going to want to do is that we're going to right click on the stimulus, and we want to split this so it gives us some extra information that we can then run with. Okay, now from here what we're going to need to do is we're going to drag from this, and we're going to search cast to player. No, cast to third person character. actor, and then attach our actor as our object. That's fine. Then we are going to, if let me get this right, we need to. Okay, we're going to get Blackboard. So we need to access our Blackboard, and we are going to need to set value as Boolean, because what we need to access essentially is the variable within our Blackboard component. So once we have sight of third-person characters, in this case, once our AI has seen our third-person character, okay, so this is what this is asking for. So once we've seen our third-person character, then we want to access our Blackboard and set a value, or set a Boolean value within our Blackboard component that we have. Now, to do this, we once we've completed this, we will then attach that to the Boolean here and say, yeah, that's all fine, you've seen it, and that will then turn the Boolean value on. But we need to tell it what Boolean value we want to access. So we're going to go from our key name here. And what's quite powerful with this is that we can specify, we can actually tell it to access a certain variable. So I'm going to actually say make a literal name, and we're actually going to type in here player spot, because this is the value that we're referencing. So we're referencing the player value variable. So essentially, it's looking, when we're saying here set value as bool, it's looking for this variable essentially. If it finds a variable with this name, it's going to set it as true if our AI has got sight of the player. Essentially, this is basically what this is doing. So if I compile, save in theory, fingers crossed, it should all going to work. Things last splits. So if I hit play, so as before, our character should just move around. But the moment our AI has got sight of us, that's it. She should follow us around. Yeah. Okay. Now you'll notice that the AI, it might be a little bit janky, and that is because what is essentially happening is that the AI is picking up from its last location. So if you remember what's happening here, when our AI is moving, it's not looking. Okay, so our AI is actually only moving upon if it can initially see the player character. Now, the way to think about it is at this moment in time, our AI is actually. There you go. It's now seen us. No, it hasn't seen us. Let me just. Okay, so it is a little bit finicky. Can you see us? Come back. Essentially what's happening here is the AI is following us based on if it can see us on the point of standing still. So it's almost like the moment the AI is standing still, it has its eyes open, but then when it is moving, its eyes are closed, so it actually can't see where it's, which direction it's looking at, and I can't quite catch up. There you go. So what's happening is it's choosing a random point to follow within a 100-degree radius, which is why it's following. There you go. You see, because now it's got sight of us, that condition is always true. Okay, but when it loses sight of us, it then defaults back to choosing a random location, and that's essentially what's happening here. So what we do, guys, I want you to try this out for me, see how you get on, and yeah, good luck.